So, starting with the basics, when we hear about e-cooking, the first thing that comes to our mind is generally these e-cooking devices, right? Rice cookers, roti makers, and all. So, you know that the government has started to talk about a transition to cleaner cooking options, not just e-cooking, but more options that are cleaner. But you have authored a paper on India's transition to e-cooking, and we know how this would work in the Indian context. Can you explain the relevance of the idea in India?
A lot of people have asked me why cooking is such a big issue that needs to be dealt with. You know the the problem is huge, and we only understand it when we look at the numbers, the scope of the problem. We have, according to India's National Family Health Survey, we have about 45% of the population still using biomass to cook. um, Biomass cooking, according to my estimations, on a national level, has more emissions than India's transport sector and industrial sector. So, India's industrial sector contributes about 10% of national emissions, and the transport sector contributes about 8% of national emissions. According to my estimations, and I used UNFCCC and IPCC guidelines to do these calculations, about 13 to 14% of India's national emissions uh, can be attributed to biomass cooking. Unfortunately, this is not accounted for in India's national emissions. And this is not just India's issue. I don't think any country estimates includes these estimations in their national emissions. Currently, India's national emissions are around 32 gigatons in a year, and biomass cooking is not even part of it. And that's just the climate emissions, which is an India problem, which is a global problem. I haven't even put numbers to the number of cancer deaths, number of lung diseases, number of tuberculosis, number of cataract problems because of biomass cooking. The health burden on India's national exchequer is immense. Not to mention the costs and the productive time lost in in sickness or death or disability because of this. And it is a major economic, social, and health problem, not to mention climate problem for India. And the only reason this has not been focused on is because there has not been any ministry or department solely focused on cooking as a whole, as a particular problem. Only MOPNG has been focused on LPG transition, but not cooking as a whole problem, where health and economic problems are also part of the issue, not to mention social problems. So, uh, so unless there is someone held responsible for this, we won't have anyone being held accountable for it.